Hi, this is Richard Jacobs from myduiattorney.org, and I'm here with Steve Litz, a criminal and DUI attorney out of Indiana. Welcome, Mr. Litz. How you doing?
I'm fine. Thank you, Mr. Jacobs, for having me.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I just wanted to ask you a few questions and do an interview with you. We'll launch right into the questions. And my first one is, what made you choose to handle DUI cases, and why do you practice in this particular area of law?
Well, I've been doing criminal defense for coming up on 26 years now, and DUI is, of course, an integral part of it, particularly in the county where I'm located in Morgan County, but across Indiana, DUIs are something that we encounter pretty much every day. And so if you're going to be doing criminal defense, you're going to be doing DUIs. It's something that is kind of an evolving practice, because it's very easy just to have somebody gets drunk, they go out and get arrested in their vehicle, they go to a lawyer that doesn't know anything about drunk driving law, and the next thing you know, a few years later, their license is suspended for 10 years and they're wondering what happened. And so it's kind of a niche of mine that I've really taken a great interest in.
Okay. And how many DUI cases do you think you've handled, and in how long a time period?
Oh, gosh. I would say, well, in the 25 to 26 years I've been practicing, maybe 500 to 1,000 DUIs.
Okay. Is there any typical circumstance for the people that you work with? Are there a lot of first-timers or more repeat ones? Are there more men than women?
I would say that, primarily men, although probably maybe a quarter or so of my DUI clients are women. And it's probably split pretty much down the middle as far as first-timers or repeat offenders. DUIs are, if somebody gets picked up once and they're not an alcoholic, they're usually scared significantly.
Okay.
But when I see the same clients over and over again, or even first-timers that are testing .20 or higher, then that tells me right away that they have a drinking problem. And so one of the things that I try to do when I interview my clients for the very first time, I'm always honest and direct with them. I don't lecture my clients, but I tell them that now's the time for them to do some serious soul searching, because if they're an alcoholic and they don't admit it, they're going to be back to see me.
Right.
And in Indiana, the stakes get dramatically higher on second and subsequent offenses.
Okay. And out of your clients, do a lot of them have a blood alcohol level close to that .08 limit, or do you see a lot of ones that are a lot higher? Is there?
Yeah, I would say that probably at least twice that. I certainly get people that are right at the limit, .08, .09. Those are the cases that we frequently try, actually.
Okay.
Or at least we get the DUI dismissed and perhaps knocked down to something that doesn't cause them as much harm, like a reckless driving or things like that.
Right.
My approach to defending drunk driving cases has always been pretty straightforward. I examine the police report, we interview the officers, we interview everybody that does the testing, and then I advise my clients whether I think there are issues that need to be explored further. And if the police have done their job, and the test is accurate and the stop was valid, and all of the other things that go into analyzing DUIs were done properly, then I try to work out the best deal I can for my client. I don't waste my client's money. You can pay thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars for DUIs and end up no better than coming to me with a much more reasonable fee of perhaps a couple $1,000s maximum for a first-time DUI. So it's really the analysis of the case that I think is critical in determining how the case is going to be handled.
Okay. And, historically, what percentage of the cases you've had have gone to trial versus settling?
Oh, I would say that a significantly high percentage of cases end up being pled, probably upwards of 90%.
Wow.
If you go to trial, DUIs are expensive, and if the test is done properly, I can cross-examine a police officer and make him look silly. But it's much more difficult to cross-examine a machine.
Right.
And I'm one of the few attorneys in the state that is actually licensed to administer the same kinds of field sobriety tests that the police give. And so I've taken very lengthy and detailed courses on field sobriety analysis. So that is actually a lot of fun for me. I love going to trial. I get more money if we go to trial.
Right.
But it's not about me getting more money. It's about doing what's in my client's best interest. And so if I think that it's in my client's best interest to take the case to trial, if I think we can win, I'll let them know.
Okay.
The vast majority of cases we end up pleading out.
Since you mentioned that you've been trained specifically on administering the field sobriety test, what kinds of insights have you gained into that process? Is it useful or not useful? And what have you learned about it that perhaps a lot of other attorneys and certainly people pulled over wouldn't know about it?
Well, here's a piece of free legal advice right now. Don't take them. You don't have to take them, and they're designed for failure. Field sobriety tests are what are known as dual attention tests. And so the police officer, while he's telling my client to pay attention to one thing, he's asking him to do something else. And if a client, and this is something that I talk to jurors about when we go to trial. I ask jurors, how many of them scored 90% or higher on their math exams when they were in grade school? And virtually everybody raises their hand. And I say, what kind of grade did you get? And they'll all say, we got an A. And I said, what do you think you get if you got 9 out of 10 on the one-leg stand test? And they kind of look at me, and I tell them that the police officer will even admit that they fail. And so these are tests that are designed for failure. Nobody should take field sobriety tests. All they do is make the police more likely to arrest you and present a stronger case for the police to keep the case from going to trial. Because I've had cops on the witness stand that couldn't do the field sobriety test, the same test that they asked my clients to do on the street.
Okay. So how would you refuse one? What words would you use? Do you have any suggestion?
Well, you don't have to be nasty, and certainly they can say, look, my lawyer advised me that I don't have to take these tests. I don't feel comfortable taking a DUI test, or a field sobriety test, excuse me. And one of the great things, at least in my area, is that most DUI stops are recorded, or at least they should be. And so in-car cameras are wonderful because they're great for me and they're great for the prosecutor as well. If my client tells me that he was not slurring his speech and that his eyes weren't bloodshot and he wasn't falling over, and we've got an in-car camera video, well, one of two things happens. Either the in-car camera shows that my client is correct and the case goes away, or it shows that he was so wasted that he really had no idea what kind of condition he was in, and then we plead him guilty. So they really work. They're a benefit both ways. It's when there's not the in-car camera that then things become, he said, she said, and I never like to go to trial if it's just a police officer's word against my client because everybody knows what happens in that situation.
Okay, interesting. Can you say what's unique, what else is unique about the DUI laws in your particular county and the cities that you service?
Well, it's not so much in our county, although the county that I practice in, Morgan County, is generally known as a very harsh sentencing county for DUIs. For example, in Indianapolis, where I do a ton of DUI work, your first DUI, nothing happens to you. I mean, you get a slap on the wrist.
Okay.
In my county, you'll spend at least a weekend in jail. Your second DUI in Indianapolis, you may do, well, by law, if it's a felony, if it's your second DUI within 5 years, it's automatically a felony. Okay. And you must do at least 5 consecutive days in jail or some community service and things like that. In this county, you'll do about 3 weeks. And then if you pick up your third offense, really everything changes dramatically. On your third offense, and this is just, the law in Indiana is unbelievably difficult and harsh on third offenders because first offense, no time. Okay. Second offense, maybe a week. Third offense, DUI, you lose your license for 10 years. You're looking at 3 years in prison plus 3 to 8 years on top of that for being a habitual substance offender.
Wow.
So you go from virtually no time conceivably to 11 years in prison. And that's something that very few people know or are even close to being prepared for.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's hard time, long time. Okay. What's your best tip when, someone's just been pulled over and they have had one or more drinks, and they're being approached by the police, what should they do and what shouldn't they do in general?
Yeah, well, again, in Indiana, if you refuse to take the breathalyzer, then typically what the police do is they get a warrant and they draw your blood anyway. So there's no sense in refusing, because all that's going to do is result in you losing your license for a year mandatory.
Okay.
So you really have to take the tests. But that's all you have to take. You don't have to tell the police you were drinking. You don't have to tell the police how much you were drinking. None of that. You can simply say, "Officer, my lawyer has told me that I don't have to answer any questions. I'll take whatever test you want to give me." And that should be it. And that's really good advice for any kind of interaction with the police. Easily 95% of my clients convict themselves before the case ever even gets to me.
Okay.
They try to talk their way out of it. They say, "I only had 3 beers," and then they come back 0.23, and everybody in the world knows that they're lying. So, the less said, the better. But they do have to take the breath test, or even if the police says, "I'm going to take you to the hospital to draw your blood," they have to agree to that.
Okay.